And we are live. Welcome into the Extra Points show presented to you guys by Fantasy Points. Heading into week 2 of the 2022 NFL season. My name is Nick Skrip, as always, here every single Sunday morning with my guy, Major. Major, week 1 in the books. Some hits, some misses, maybe more on one side than the other. I know you had some good calls with those rookies last week, but any thoughts in general about week 1? Could be about the bets, could be about the football, fantasy, anything. Open mic.
Man, last week was good. It was good getting back into it. Was like, riding a bike for the first time. You got to get back used to it. You got to get your muscles going. You got to stretch. So last week was like a stretch. You get what I'm saying? So we're just warming up. We're about to go full speed this week.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I know for myself, it took some overtime for Deontay Johnson to hit his receiving yard total. So that was a hit. Elijah Mitchell got hurt, so maybe that's a wash. I don't know. Had some misses. I know Major hit on I believe Alec Pierce for sure.
Yeah.
And who was the other rookie? Was it Olave
Yeah.
or Pickett?
Well,
Yeah.
actually, you know what? I think I went 1-3 last week. I think that's what I'm saying. We're
Yeah.
warming up. We're warming
Yeah,
up right now.
just
We're warming up.
getting going. But
Yeah.
I know the feeling though, just because it feels like Christmas Day, week 1, and then come week 7, everything's settled in by then, and we're not as eager for every single play. But if you guys are tuning in, how this show works is every single week, Major and I walk through some pick'ems on the Underdog Fantasy app. And if you are not familiar with Underdog, it's a very, very popular platform. It was through Best Ball, but now it's a lot of sports betting in terms of over and unders on player props. So how it works is they will give you a list of players that are playing today, and they'll have a bunch of different stats that you can choose from, and you can pick over or under on those specific stats. You combine some, and then you can put down your deposit for what you want to place. So if you want to play $1 on 3 guys hitting something, if you want to put $10, it's up to you, but it's a lot of fun. It makes football more fun on Sundays. So underdogfantasy.com, or you can go to the App Store and type in Underdog Fantasy. If you are not familiar, again, go check it out. They will give you a deposit matchup up to $100 using the promo code Fantasy Points, Fantasy PTS, with that deposit down. So go check it out today. Tons of selections. Major and I go through 4 each every single week. So if you like everything he says and nothing that I say, go with his. If you like a mix of both of ours, you guys can mix them up and throw your own in there. But it makes, again, football more fun every Sunday. So, Major, let's kick things off with one that you feel pretty confident in this week for an underdog bet.
Yeah, man. One thing I was looking for, and they just all kind of popped out right to me, is they are all very attainable, man. Like
Yeah.
the props are not like outrageous or anything. So I'm gonna go Tua uh higher than 1.5 passing TDs. Miami versus Baltimore has all the ingredients to be like a high scoring matchup, giving Tua plenty opportunity to throw for 2 or more touchdowns. Last week, Tua connected with Waddle on a 42-yard touchdown. So this week, look for Hill to get involved a little bit on that touchdown game. And Waddle and the Hill is going to take advantage of that banged up secondary with in Baltimore with the corners Humphreys and Peters both dealing with injuries. So they're a bit banged up, and I think Hill and Waddle is going to have an opportunity to do some work today.
I am all in with that. Just knowing that it's a big game, Miami versus Baltimore, for one, knowing, like you just said, those guys are banged up. And also just knowing that both Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are extremely good at taking a ball from, a 15-yard pass for 60 yards or take it to the house. Both guys are extremely good with the yards after the catch
Yeah,
categories. We saw last week, right? You just mentioned it with Waddle.
absolutely. Yeah, and like I said, if Waddle's getting down last week, you know Hill's going to come through this week. So I think they're both going to have an opportunity to get some TDs, helping to attain that 1.5, get those 2 TDs.
Yeah, Tyreek Hill 8 for 94 last week, and Jalen Waddle 4 for 69, and it was against the Patriots, so it's not like a walkover defense by
Exactly.
any means. So that's a good look for Tua and for the Dolphins here. My first one here, and it's a little iffy because there was a bit of a split, not in his favor last week, but I'm going to go with Breece Hall over 2.5 receptions. So obviously, with this guy being the 101 of rookie drafts, you didn't want to see him come into the league getting 45% of the snaps, and Michael Carter getting more touches in week one. But I think the promising part about Breece Hall is that he saw 9 total targets last week. He had 6 catches. I think that's a great sign for a guy who we know he has that skill set. Coming out of Iowa State, he caught 82 balls in his college career. So this line, this 2.5, is half of what he hit last week. So 6 catches last week. They're saying he's going to only hit 3 over and under. So I'm going to take that 3 mark, just knowing that, again, he profiles as that sort of player. For 1. For 2, he saw a lot of targets from Joe Flacco. Cleveland gave up the second least rushing yards last week to Carolina. They only gave up 54 on the ground. So I think that they're going to lean on giving their running backs, the Jets, work through the air versus on the ground, because I don't think Cleveland's a great matchup in terms of putting a lot of rushing yards on them. So give me Breece Hall just to get that 3 catches. But I know you mentioned being hesitant on the rookies last week, and you were right about Pierce, for instance. What's your thoughts on Breece Hall 3 catches?
No, absolutely. I think that's super attainable. And Coach Saleh's talking about getting him more involved in the offense anyway. Um, and one things I see about coaches, and this is going to lead into my next one. One thing you see about coaches one week from the other, if you have like a star player, someone who didn't really perform that well, you didn't go to him as enough just because the game scripted out a little differently, they tend to kind of make up for it that following week. So that's going to lead into my next one with I'm gonna go with Allen Robinson, higher than 53.5 receiving yards. A-Rod was nowhere to be found last week, posting 1 reception for 12 yards. But Coach McVay seems to be a player's coach, and I think he's going to look to get Robinson going early to make up for the 2 targets he had last week. Like Allen Robinson, 2 targets, that sounds crazy. So A-Rod would be facing Atlanta defense that gave up 177 receiving yards to another great wide receiver duel in Landry and Thomas last week. So look for Robinson and Cup to duplicate that and kind of redo or duplicate that the output of the New Orleans tandem did last week. So I think Robinson will I think they're going to go to him early this week and get him. He's going to have between 60 and 80 yards. So I think he's going to be well over attaining that 53.5.
So you mentioned McVay. I saw the interview with him following that game about wanting to get Allen Robinson more involved, but also Liam Cohen, who's the offensive coordinator. He's another guy that's had some statements following that game saying, "Hey, we have a plan to get A-Rob more involved in this offense." And I believe those guys because they went and they brought him in. It's not like he's been on the team for a while or he fell on their lap or it was a trade where they sent like Devontae Parker to the Patriots. They sent the 6th round pick and now he's a Patriot. But how just in general, I agree with this too, because I think if 2 of the guys, the head coach and the offensive coordinator, are saying, "Hey, we need to make sure this guy's involved," and they made a point to bring him into the system, do you think? How do you go about it? It could be just in general, it can be in fantasy, anything. How do you go about with a guy having that slow of a start? Do you think people tend to overreact due to emotions because of fantasy or sports betting, or do you think it's fair to say, "Hey, I didn't like how this guy looked week 1"? You know, we've seen a bunch of underperformers last week.
Yeah. To me, I kind of play props in fantasy for that matter. I kind of play them at like the stock market. I like to buy things when they're down. I like to buy commodities when they're down. Allen Robinson is down right now. I think that's why his line is at 53.5. To me, that's super attainable. That's 3-4 catches. You can come up with like 80 yards, 60 yards at least. So I'm always going in and grabbing players when they're down, especially someone of Allen Robinson's caliber, because the coaches and everyone else, and he's like the veteran on that team. I think the team kind of gravitates towards him, and I think they're going to really rally around and get him going.
And I think for people listening, when you see a bad performance, look at all the surrounding factors too. Look at how, was the guy running a lot of routes? Allen Robinson, he was running a lot of routes. Was the guy on the field for most of the game? He was on the field for most of the game. So you see some guys have a bad performance, but then you look and you say, well, they only had like 50% of the snaps. That's not good. You can have, another guy who has a bad performance, but he had like 90% of the snaps, ran a bunch of routes. It just didn't work out in his favor. So look at the
Right.
bigger picture. Don't overreact to these things, but I
Always look
get
at
it.
the game script. Always look at the game
Yes,
script.
absolutely. Next one for me, my second one, I'm going to go Zay Jones over 3.5 receptions. So Christian Kirk had a huge day last week, which I think left Zay Jones kind of in the shadow. It's because Christian Kirk was over 100 yards receiving. I think he had like 117, 120, something around that. And Zay Jones was kind of like the quiet guy that also had a pretty good game for the Jaguars. So, the Jaguars in the offseason went and signed Zay Jones. He had a good season to cap things off last year with the Raiders. They gave him some cash. And in preseason, Zay Jones and Trevor Lawrence showed some good chemistry. We saw plenty of clips of those guys being connected just at training camp. In the first game, we weren't sure about who was going to step up for the Jaguars. Was it going to be Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, Marvin Jones Jr., Zay Jones? Who was going to be the guy? They just got rid of Chenault as well. But Zay Jones played 83% of the snaps. He had 6 catches on 9 targets for 65 receiving yards. So I'm going to bank on a guy to get 4 catches in this one after getting nearly 10 looks in the first week. So I think the game script is well versus the Colts. I know they're missing Michael Pittman Jr., but again, pretty good defense, pretty good offense in general, unless I got the wrong matchup here. But I think Zay Jones again.
You're right.
Yeah, I think Zay Jones. I had to second guess that for a second. I think Zay Jones again having that 9 targets week 1 after having a good looking chemistry with Trevor Lawrence. I'm gonna go with him getting 4 catches in this one. But as always, what do you think, Major?
Yeah, I'm with you on that because I kind of looking at the matchup. Kenny Moore is probably going to follow Christian Kirk around. Christian Kirk looked pretty good last week, so he's going to draw the number 1 corner on Indy, and that's going to leave opportunity for Zay. I've always been a big Zay Jones fan. For some reason, he just never kind of work out. He just I don't know what it is about him, but he never really latches on with a team. But I liked him last year or with the year he was with the Raiders. He kind of caught my eye and he did pretty good. And I think this is going to be kind of his breakout season in his fifth year.
5th-year breakouts, just the way we plan on some wide receivers to hit. So we got 2 and 2 so far. We both got 2 more to go. What's the next one for you, man?
Man, I'm gonna go with this one right here. Seem like it's just easy pickings. Like Derrick Henry higher than 0.5 rushing and receiving touchdowns. Yeah, the king is back, man. Like he never left. Last week ran for 82 yards, but didn't find the end zone. But he's going up against a Buffalo defense that's one of the best run defense in the league. Not giving up a rushing TD last week. But it's hard to believe that King Henry will go 2 games in a row without scoring 1 touchdown. So just that 0.5, I think that's making it easy for me, or making me feel at ease when placing this bet. I like we always like to have that combo. If you get a rushing and a receiving thing going, even though it's been 25 weeks since Derrick Henry scored a receiving touchdown, it still makes me feel happy to have that little perk right there. It makes me feel easier to smash this bet. But having scoring 1 touchdown, I think that's going to be easy for him. He's going to get a goal line carry or something. So Derrick Henry will fall into the end zone.
It's hard to argue against Derrick Henry scoring touchdowns just because last season played in, I think, 8 games total last season, and he had 10 touchdowns. So he was averaging over a touchdown a game. We saw 3 games where he had 3 rushing touchdowns in those 8 games. So that is insane to even say that number for what he was doing last season before that injury. But week 1, obviously didn't score, didn't hit 100 rushing yards, but I think the good sign is he had over 20 rushing attempts. And that's
Exactly.
something people were questioning, hey, well, they added Robert Woods and Treylon Burks. They got Kyle Phillips as a sleeper. Austin Hooper's here. Are they going to try to push the pass more? But even in a loss, Derrick Henry ran the ball over 20 times. So I'm with you on not going against the guy we saw score over a touchdown last season in this matchup here. And in general, did you think he looked pretty decent in week one? I mean, I feel like he did. It's just I think it's a matter of moving pieces for Tennessee.
Again, I think it was game script. Just how the game kind of fell out. He didn't have that opportunity to really, get those goal line runs. But yeah, man, he looks explosive. He looks healthy. He looks rested. I think missing last year may have been what he needed just to get him a few more years. Running backs tend to get beat up, and he's just running into people. So I think he's going to have one of those MVP type caliber seasons.
Yeah, and I think the thought process of hey, they might ease off his workload so that they can prolong his season kind of went out the door week one.
Exactly.
In a 1-point loss. But my third one here, I told you last week I was all optimistic. I had all overs. I'm going to go 2 for 2, 2 overs, 2 unders, just to
There you
be
go.
level
Look at the
ground.
play. Growing up.
I'm learning from you, man. That's why we're on this show. I'm just kidding. But I'm going to go Mark Ingram under 65.5 rushing and receiving yards. So I had an Alvin Kamara under for this game. I just saw, I was saying before the show started, I go on Twitter for a second. The first thing I see is Alvin Kamara is out. I'm like, oh my gosh, I was going to come on this show and talk about Kamara, who's not even playing in this game. But
Right.
Playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So we got 32-year-old Mark Ingram, who is now the lead back, or he should be the lead back in this game. Tampa Bay gave up 71 total yards on the ground last week versus Dallas. So that was total. So that had to be with anybody who ran the ball one time at all. Could have been Dak, could have been Ezekiel Elliott. In 2021, Tampa Bay gave up the third least rushing yards per game. So this is a team that last season was very, very good against the run. Now we flash forward to 2022, and in their first game, they were good again against the run. So 71 total yards to everybody's not a walk in the park for any team. I don't think this game also favors Mark Ingram to get 18 to 20 touches. So even though it is one of those rushing plus receiving yard totals that you and I like, Major, I just don't see Mark Ingram being a big difference maker in this Tampa Bay versus New Orleans Saints game. I think this game is going to be a lot of Jameis Winston looking to Olave, Michael Thomas, and Landry in this one versus leaning on 32-year-old Mark Ingram. So game script, also Tampa Bay's run defense. I don't like Mark Ingram to go over that 65.5 rushing plus receiving mark.
Yeah, there's also been reports that he's going to be splitting carries with Troy Jones Jr. And he's also dealing with an ankle, and we all know a running back and an ankle, that's a big thing to keep an eye on. But yeah, so I think Mark, he's going to probably start the game off. He's going to get those short yardage runs, but I feel like, I don't know why, but I just got a feeling that Troy Jones is going to get a shot to our opportunity to get the majority of the work today.
Yeah, they might give, let's say they give Mark Ingram 60% and him 40%, still
Right.
only 60% of the touches, so
Exactly.
same page. What's your last one though?
My last one, man, I went with 2 overs, so I'm gonna go with Joe Flacco, lower than 223.5 passing yards. Flacco shocked everyone last week, throwing for 300 yards, but a lot of that was garbage time against Baltimore defense that, like I mentioned earlier, kind of got banged up in that game. But Joe be facing a Browns defense that only gave up 207 yards last week. The Browns defense is playing really well already. And lastly, Flacco will also find a way to Flacco. That's just Flacco. He's going to find a way to mess it up. And he has a really young group of wide receivers. So I think they're still trying to find their way, find their footing in the league. They're starting to gel a little bit. But like I said, man, Flacco will always find his way back to earth. You hit throw for 300 this week is probably not going to be the same. So always bet on Flacco to Flacco. So I'm going to say he's going to have lower than 223.5 passing yards.
Yeah, I think you made a good point. I think this offense is like really trying to establish what how they're going to operate on the year, because a lot of us were like debating in the offseason who's going to be the wide receiver one. Is it going to be Elijah Moore or Garrett Wilson, the
Right.
new rookie? And who was it week one? It was Corey Davis, like led the team in certain categories. And then we had the two running backs. I mentioned Breece Hall earlier. Both Breece Hall and Michael Carter combined for just around 20 targets between the two running backs. And then Tyler Conklin, I think, is the one who scored. So we have all these like question marks for roles on this offense, how they want to operate. And it's not, like you said, an easy matchup at all versus Cleveland, who their defense looked pretty good week one. And I think they're going to be a good defense through the year. So I'm with you on that Joe Flacco under. Veteran quarterback, super experienced, but we got too many question marks for this Jets offense.
Exactly.
My last one, going to go with another under. You mentioned Tua, who you like in this game. I like some of the other pieces, but I don't really like Cedric Wilson. And, it's not like I'm talking about Devontae Adams or Tyreek Hill or one of these other big-time receivers, so maybe it's an easier one to talk about. And maybe this guy can have one catch that beats this, but I'm going to go Cedric Wilson under 21.5 receiving yards. So if we look at the targets week one for Miami, Tyreek Hill had 12 targets. Waddle had 5. Edmonds had 4 targets. So Cedric Wilson was one of 4 different players who saw 2 targets. He also only played 47% of the snaps, so he wasn't even out there more than 50% of the time as that wide receiver 3 on the team. So one big catch, he can go 20 yards on one big catch. He had 20 yards last week. I don't think he's going to hit this 22 receiving mark again, because his target importance in this offense obviously was not there week one. Things can change, but he wasn't really a big piece of where those targets were going. And then number 2, he's not even on the field for over 50% of the time. So I'm going to go Cedric Wilson under 21.5 receiving yards on this day.
Yeah, when you said it, I was like, I had to see me over here typing. I had to look at it. 20 yards seems very attainable, but when you have 2 target hogs on the team, you got to feed Waddle. You have to feed Hill. You have to get Hill involved. And like I said, last week he didn't score, so look to Tua to like really kind of force the ball to Hill this week, just to like keep everyone happy. You got to keep those superstars happy. And like you said, that being on the field less than 50% of the snaps, that's an eye opener right there with the 47% snaps, so percentage. So I'm all in with you. Like, again, 20 sounds low, but I think the game script is going to be kind of going towards Hill and Waddle and getting Chase Edmonds involved as well. So he might be the man left out, the fourth wheel.
And Mike Gesicki, for example, was totally left out last week, and he's another guy that out of nowhere might see like 4 or 5 targets on a given day, and that might push Cedric Wilson even further down the list there for this specific game. And then I like Chase Edmonds a lot in this one, so I think he might see 5-6 targets himself. But again, if you guys are tuning in, not familiar, Underdog Fantasy, you can go on your mobile device. You can go on your laptop and find it there. Very easy to sign up and very easy to utilize. If you are a new user, sign up and use the promo code FANTASYPTS for a deposit matchup up to $100. Major and I go through 4 picks each every single week. We have a mix of what hits, what doesn't. We're trying for 100% this week and hopefully win you guys some money. But Major, anything else as we close out this show heading into week 2?
Yeah, man. Like, do what Nick just said. Grab 4 his and 4 of mine and make like a 8-leg parlay and throw a little money on there and see what happens. It was a guy last night who hit for a lot of money throwing $7 down. You know what I mean? So let's see what happens, man. Let's have a good week.
Yeah, I don't mind like throwing $5 down to win like $50 or something, because we go to the grocery store and buy like a candy bar and like a Gatorade, and that's like $5 in itself right there. So makes things more fun on the weekend. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. We are here every single Sunday, guys. So thank you guys for tuning in, and good luck in both fantasy and sports betting this week. Have a good one.
Sound